Hey guys. In this last video on tempo, we're going to go into win conditions and finishers. So since every match of Gwent requires winning 2 out of 3 rounds, every deck that you make should have a strategy or plan for winning those 2 out of 3 rounds. The strategy in your deck for winning rounds is often known as your deck's win conditions, and every deck kind of needs 2 different win conditions. One win condition for winning long rounds, and another win condition, or often called a finisher, for winning a short round. The reason it's called a finisher is that your short round win condition often comes in the 3rd round because the first 2 rounds tend to be a little bit longer, so you're often trying to hold on to 1 or 2 very strong tempo plays till the end of the game that you can lay down in a couple cards and hopefully outpower your opponent in the crucial final round. So every deck you make should include a plan for winning a longer round and a shorter round, and usually the long round strategy depends more on value over time effects and cards that build off one another to produce value over a long combo, whereas finishers are often just single high tempo cards that don't require much setup whatsoever. They're just maybe your best gold card or a combination of a couple really good bronzes and silvers, perhaps things that you've been powering up in your hand over the course of a match. To give you an idea of win conditions and finishers, I'm just going to play through a quick match here. This particular deck I'm running is a Northern Realms Siege deck with a long round win condition of putting down crewmen and using the synergy crewmen have with machines to generate a lot of value. And then the finisher win condition is putting down some Temerian infantrymen that have been buffing up in my hand the whole match, and then using a commander's horn on them at the end. So let's see how this goes.
Regroup.
I start with straight tempo play that buffs units in my hand. For now, I'm just setting up crewmen so that my machines will be more powerful.
Bloody non-humans.
These blue striped scouts have the crewman tag, which allows my siege units to do more damage. So maybe I'll toss out one of my machines now that I have this siege pocket set up. Can just do some damage to different units.
I am not afraid.
I told you so, you idiot.
Let's see here. Maybe I throw out this gold card. I happen to have Muzzle in here, so I can steal one of his siege units. It's worth pretty good value to do that. He used the commander's horn a little bit early there, probably. Maybe I get another one of these guys down. You can see this Temerian infantry in my hand here has been getting buffed up every turn, so he's up to 6 now. This is improving the quality of the finisher that I'm planning to do later on.
Onward! Attack!
Get Foltest out. He buffs all the cards in my deck as well. The opponent's pushing this round pretty hard, but he is kind of playing into a nasty Scorch effect on the back row. You can see here that he's got a bunch of units on the back row, and there's a couple of them at 8 here, so I'm paying attention to that, because if I can reduce this down and John Natalis down, I might be able to get a nice Scorch effect with my Geralt Igni on that back row, so let's maybe try to set that up. We'll bring that down to 8, bring that down to 7, and then we just ping something else, doesn't really matter. And maybe we can get a good Scorch on that back row, we'll see. Oh my goodness. You can see the computer foolishly played into this Scorch we're trying to set up, so this is a really nice example of a powerful reactive effect here that we're going to get. So this one card is going to remove 4 8-strength units on his back row, and now we're much too far ahead for him to catch up in a reasonable number of cards. So he's smartly passing there. I will in turn pass, because there's no reason to keep playing at this point. I'm going to draw a couple cards. Unfortunately, we drew into one of the cards we're planning to use as a finisher, so we should probably throw that back into the deck. This is also not a card we really want to be seeing right now, but maybe This is a situation where if you're planning to do a really high tempo finisher, it can be nice to play out most of your bad cards before the final round so that your opponent doesn't have many cards to match your finisher with. So maybe I'll actually play a few of my bad cards in this round so that I can take my strong finisher into the final round.
Aye, aye, sir.
It's not always recommended to be playing cards into a round like this, but I'm just doing this for explanatory purposes of how a strong finisher can really help you win a match, even if you're perhaps down a card.
Coming!
Alright, so we've got 3 good cards remaining, so I'm going to take these 3 cards into the final round as my finisher. We've got some Temerian infantry, which will put 3 units on a row. We've got John Natalis, who can reinforce for another unit, so we should be able to get 5 units on a row very quickly in 2 cards, and then Commander's Horn. So that's a pretty strong looking finisher, and it should carry us after we pass here. It should carry the final round. So we have the same number of cards, and the thought is that this finisher that we've hoarded and kind of been powering up and saving till the end is going to be able to carry the final round for us. We did draw into a card that isn't particularly useful to us, but that's okay because the finisher we do have should be enough. The opponent is forced to play a card first. We'll play out our... Maybe we'll play out the Ballista first, just to see what he's going to do. So he removed it. Now we'll play out our Temerian infantry. This is part of our finisher. So this pulls 21 strength in one play because we've been hoarding these for most of the match. Now we'll play our John Natalis. He will summon a unit and make 5 units in one row for us. Maybe we'll get Ronvid out. He's just worth 11 strength, which is pretty nice. And he protects this row from that same Geralt Igni effect we saw earlier. And then we can follow up with our big Commander's Horn.
But we're broke as shit peddlers.
So the computer didn't happen to have much for us in this final round. But you can see that even with only a handful of cards to play in this final round, we put down 59 strength. So if this were a real match against a real human player, that would have been a fairly powerful finisher that would have been pretty hard for most decks to deal with. So I hope this gave you some insight into win conditions and saving big tempo finishers for the end of the match and how that's a very important way to be able to close matches and win. Next time we will start getting into card advantage. So I'll have a series of several videos touching on different topics about card advantage. So see you then.